Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Ever catch yourself wondering if there's like a hidden engine room to your life? A source of power you haven't quite tapped into yet?
hmm
Today, we're going down the rabbit hole with some seriously mind-bending concepts.
Yeah, from Neville Goddards' 1952 book, The Power of Awareness.
Right, and we're inspired by the amazing work over at the Master Key Society YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
And just thinking pause, this is about understanding the incredible force that is you.
What's so compelling right off the bat, is Godard's assertion that consciousness isn't this scattered thing.
Oh,
It's one unified field. It just expresses itself in all the diverse experiences and, well, individuals we see around us.
like that Ephesians quote
Yeah.
about light.
Exactly. Ephesians 5:23, everything that is made manifest is light. And Godard interprets that light as our shared consciousness.
So no real walls between us.
Just different facets of the same underlying reality. That's the idea.
Okay, so let's unpack that I am idea, because it's not just saying, hi, my name is Gary, right? It's way more fundamental.
Precisely. I am, in this context, is the ultimate self-definition. It's the foundation of existence, really.
That constant awareness.
Yeah, that constant silent awareness of being, that fundamental knowing that you are, even when the specifics shift. It's the uncaused cause, the substance everything else comes from.
So if I am, is this core awareness? What's the game-changing insight for us? For you tuning in right now.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Your concept of yourself, how you define that I am feeling it, isn't just a label.
It's the blueprint.
It is the blueprint for the world you experience. You're not just a player in your reality. You're essentially writing the script.
Wow, that sounds incredibly empowering, but also a little intense.
Mm-hmm.
Like if things aren't going the way I want, is Goddard saying that's on might?
That's the core challenge, yeah. But also the ultimate freedom. Think about it. If you're facing health issues, Goddard suggests the root isn't some external thing, some invader.
But my own concept.
Your own deep-seated concept of I am unwell. It's about how that fundamental substance, consciousness, is being shaped by your self-perception.
Like that Bible verse, Joel 3.9.
Exactly. Let the weak man say, I am strong. It implies this direct ability to reshape that core substance just through your conscious affirmation.
Wow. So it's not limited to just physical well-being then?
Not at all. This principle is presented as universal. It influences every single aspect of your life.
Relationships, money.
Your relationships, your finances, your intellectual growth, your spiritual journey, everything. It all circles back to that fundamental sense of self, that core I am.
All right, so consciousness is the foundation. Now, how do we actually start building a life we truly desire? Those more stately mansions Goddard talks about.
Well, chapter 2, titled Consciousness, really emphasizes that this process, this building a better reality, it starts with an inner transformation.
A shift inside.
A fundamental shift in your consciousness. And that happens by changing your concept of yourself. Remember, consciousness is presented as the one and only reality.
The ultimate creative force.
Right. Nothing can manifest in your world unless you are consciously aware of it.
So the things around us, the stuff we see and touch,
Yeah.
they're not like independent of us.
Exactly. The book really challenges that idea of a separate external world acting on you.
Mm-hmm.
Circumstances, the conditions you encounter, even, tangible objects, are all described as projections of your own consciousness.
You and your world are one.
One interconnected field, yeah.
Yeah.
So to understand why your life looks the way it does, the starting point is always within. Always.
That's a real perspective flip, isn't it? It's so easy to point fingers at, external factors.
It is, but this turns that whole idea on its head.
Yeah.
And to make this tangible, Goddard uses a great analogy. Imagine that fundamental mind stuff, that consciousness, as like a piece of steel. Whether that steel is magnetized and attracts or demagnetized and repels, it isn't a change in the steel itself, right?
How the molecules are arranged.
Exactly, how its molecules are arranged. Similarly, your reality, whether it's one of lack or abundance, isn't about some fundamental scarcity out there.
It's about the arrangement of my mind.
Your mind, your deeply held beliefs, your assumptions, that's the arrangement that matters.
So things like health, wealth, all the stuff we strive for, they aren't created from scratch.
Precisely. They exist within that unified field of consciousness, just waiting to be revealed.
Wow.
It's not about magically conjuring something new. It's about rearranging your inner world, your concept of yourself, so that these inherent possibilities can become your lived experience.
Health, wealth, beauty, Genius.
Manifested through the specific configuration of your consciousness, yes.
Which brings us perfectly to Chapter 3, Power of Assumption. Because if our consciousness is the projector, then what we assume to be true must be the film we're playing, right?
Absolutely. Chapter 3 tackles what Goddard calls humanity's chief delusion.
Which is?
The ingrained belief in external causes controlling our lives. It just reinforces that core idea. Everything you experience, every action, everything that comes into your world.
It's a direct consequence of my state of consciousness.
Your prevailing state of consciousness, your thoughts, desires, deepest convictions. Yes.
So if we're not happy with the picture on the screen, we can't just, kick the projector.
Exactly. Lasting change in your outer world needs a corresponding transformation in your inner state. It's like, a change in atmospheric pressure leads to rain. A shift in your inner landscape will eventually bring changes in your external reality.
Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
That's the essence. A fundamental change in your thought patterns, fueled by new possibilities and a real desire for that change.
And the key action here is assumption. How do we actually put that into practice day to day?
The core practice is to bring your future desire into the present moment, now, by actively assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. It's about creating a vivid ideal of the person you want to be.
Okay.
And then, crucially, living as if you were already that person. Now.
Not just wishful thinking.
No, not fleeting. It's a sustained feeling, a deep inner conviction that becomes your dominant reality.
There's a really interesting analogy in there about mental knowing versus spiritual knowing. Can you break that down?
Sure. Mental knowing is like, observing something from a distance, analyzing it, labeling it. Spiritual knowing, though, is about complete immersion, becoming one with the thing itself.
Like the moth and the flame.
Exactly like the moth and the flame. To truly know something spiritually, you have to embody it. You have to be it in your consciousness.
So to step into a new version of ourselves, we have to kind of let go of the old one.
Precisely. Becoming a new person requires a willingness to, die to your current self.
Let go of the old definitions.
Release the old self-definitions and limitations you've accepted as true. To embody a new reality, vibrant health maybe, or unshakable security, you have to assume you already possess it.
And live by that assumption.
Live with unwavering faith in that assumption, even before it fully shows up physically.
And imagination is the engine driving this whole process.
Imagination is presented as the uniquely human faculty. It's the instrument you use to sculpt your world.
It's our redemption from slavery.
Sickness and poverty, yes. If you neglect to consciously engage your imagination to embody a higher concept of yourself, you're basically ignoring the only tool that can realize your ideal.
Wow.
Imagination, from this perspective, is the single redemptive power in the universe. And the choice to wield it consciously or stay limited by your current perceptions, that rests entirely with you.
Chapter 4 gets into desire. Often when things shift, we just say it's chance, right? But Goddard suggests something more fundamental.
That's right. Chapter 4 clarifies that the only true fate governing your life is determined by your own ingrained concepts and assumptions.
Those random things aren't random.
They're actually the direct result of your persistent inner states. Even a belief that isn't technically true, if you hold on to it with enough conviction,
it becomes fact.
It will eventually solidify into your reality.
Yeah. So simply wanting something isn't enough.
Right.
We have to go beyond just the wish.
Exactly. The ideal you long for won't just materialize out of thin air. No magic wand.
Yeah.
It'll only become your reality when you have fully imagined and felt that you already are that ideal. There's no shortcut around that inner transformation.
My ability to use my imagination is key.
It's the crucial determining factor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The chapter also talks about abandonment related to our desires. What does that mean here?
It signifies a complete, wholehearted openness to your ideal, a total surrender to the feeling of your wish fulfilled.
Like surrendering to love.
Much like surrendering to a powerful emotion like love, yeah. This complete immersion is the pathway to becoming one with your desired state.
Assume the feeling until it's real.
Until it has the same sensory vividness and conviction as your current reality, pushing out any contradictory thoughts.
And what about those of us who find it hard to take that conscious plunge into assuming the wish fulfilled?
Well, the book suggests that even those who aren't consciously aware of this are still living by the law of assumption, just unconsciously.
Right.
But for those ready to consciously embrace the feeling of their wish as an accomplished fact, that's when life really elevates.
To a higher level of being.
Exactly. It's about daring to envision yourself as someone other than who you currently see yourself as. If you don't believe you are the person you want to be, well, you'll stay as you are.
So consistently nurturing that feeling is key.
Absolutely. Through faithfully, deliberately cultivating that feeling, your desire itself becomes the promise of its own realization.
The assumption makes it real inside first.
The very act of assuming the feeling of your wish being fulfilled transforms that future hope into a tangible, present reality within your consciousness.
This all points towards incredible personal power. Chapter 5 is even called The Truth That Sets You Free. What's the core of that liberating truth?
Chapter 5 dives deep into the psychological nature of our lives. It states pretty unequivocally that all the conditions, circumstances, events we experience, they're brought about by our fundamental underlying assumptions.
Recognizing that as step 1.
And recognizing that truth forces you to confront the fact that you are either unknowingly being shaped by your unconscious assumptions,
Or consciously taking charge.
or consciously taking the reins as the master of them. Yes.
And how do we step into that mastery? How do we do that?
Mastery comes through the deliberate, conscious control of your imagination.
Okay.
It involves actively creating a mental image of your desired state, of the person you envision yourself being,
And
and then focusing your attention intently on the feeling that you are already that person. You don't just visualize it, you fully embody the feeling as if it's your current lived reality.
So it's not just about a pretty mental picture. The feeling is the crucial ingredient.
Absolutely essential. That mental image needs to be infused with the genuine feeling of it already being true.
Right.
Through the power of your focused imagination, that mental construct solidifies into what feels like a tangible reality surrounding you. The great secret is this disciplined imagination and sustained attention consistently pointed towards that desired feeling.
There's a concept mentioned, resting in the Lord. What does that mean here?
It's described as fully identifying yourself with your ideal,
How?
by assuming you are already that ideal. By doing so, you inevitably mold yourself into its image. This resting in the Lord is the active state of dwelling within that assumed feeling.
My resigned will.
You become in accordance with your resigned will, which is essentially your deeply held concept of yourself and everything you accept as true.
And if we don't actively assume that feeling, if we just wish,
Then you remain disconnected from the potential results of that desired state. Simple as that. Understanding the redemptive function of imagination empowers you to solve any challenge, realize any aspiration. Disciplined imagination is the driver.
the beginning and end of creation.
The very beginning and the ultimate end of all creation, according to this view.
So the truth that sets us free is that we can experience anything we desire in our imagination, and by consistently living there, it manifests physically.
Precisely. The only limitations we face are our undisciplined imagination and a lack of sustained focus on the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Without that inner work.
Without that controlled inner work and unwavering attention, no amount of external effort or pleading will bring about the desired outcome. When you gain the ability to command your imagination and your inner world feels real, that's when you truly become the architect of your destiny.
Chapter 6 shifts focus to attention itself. Sounds like where we direct our mental energy is going to be crucial.
Indeed. Chapter 6 underscores that attention is potent. Its strength is directly proportional to how narrowly it's focused on a single idea or sensation.
Training the mind.
It's about training your mind to see and engage with only one specific thing. Steadied, powerful attention comes from this deliberate confinement to a singular focus.
So our desires only really start to take shape when we give them our undivided mental attention.
Exactly. A desire only starts to materialize when your attention is exclusively concentrated upon it. An idea gains momentum, gains power in direct relation to the attention you invest in it.
Concentrated observation.
Which means actively choosing where you place your mental focus. It's absolutely crucial.
How do we practically apply this focused attention to our desires?
Well, when you have clarity on what you want, you must consciously direct your attention towards the feeling of your wish fulfilled.
Until it fills the mind.
Until that feeling completely saturates your mind, effectively crowding out any other thoughts, any doubts. The strength of your focused attention is basically a measure of your inner resolve, your inner power.
It sounds easy for the mind to wander, though. How do we maintain that focus?
While the chapter emphasizes the great secret of success lies in consistently focusing attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled without allowing distractions to take root.
All progress depends on it.
All progress, it states, hinges on this cultivation of focused attention. The ideas that compel you to act are the ones dominating your consciousness, the ones holding your attention captive.
There's a specific exercise mentioned to help master attention. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it suggests a nightly practice right before sleep. Make a conscious effort to mentally replay the day's events in reverse.
Reverse order.
Starting with the last thing you did, working back to the very beginning. This exercise, it might feel challenging at first.
I bet.
But it's presented as a powerful way to strengthen the muscle of your attention. And that's fundamental for reshaping your self-concept and therefore your future.
So our imagination basically follows the direction we give it with our attention, like a spotlight.
Precisely. Your imagination can achieve anything, but it operates according to the internal guidance you provide through focused attention. Consistent practice in deliberately directing your attention can eventually awaken a deeper power within you.
Leading to awareness of the greater self.
A conscious awareness of your greater, truer self. Yes.
Chapter 7 takes a fascinating turn, discussing attitude experiments. It seems like it's bringing in some real-world evidence.
That's right. Chapter 7 delves into experiments by Merle Lawrence and A.D. Delbert Ames.
What do they show?
They convincingly demonstrated that our perception of reality isn't solely based on what's physically there. It's heavily influenced by the underlying assumptions we hold when we observe.
So the real world is assumptive.
Given that our perceived real physical world is largely shaped by our assumptions, these experiments lend significant weight to the idea that reality is essentially a reflection of our expectations and beliefs.
So our assumptions don't just color how we see the world, but they also shape how we interact with it, how we move.
Absolutely. Your assumptions govern not only perceptions, but also all your conscious and subconscious movements towards their fulfillment.
Like Emerson said, about the world being plastic.
Exactly. The chapter quotes Emerson, who said the world is plastic and fluid in the hands of God, which aligns perfectly with the idea of our consciousness actively molding reality. Our assumptions, in this sense, are the hand of God shaping the world into the image of what we deeply believe.
And the conscious assumption of our wish fulfilled has a particularly strong power.
Yes, it's described as a high tide that lifts you beyond perceived sensory limitations. It elevates your mind into a state like prophecy.
Prophecy.
Not necessarily predicting the future in the usual sense,
Right.
but more like foreseeing and actively creating your desired reality. With disciplined imagination and focused attention, the chapter assures everything your assumption inherently implies will come to pass.
There's a compelling case history in this chapter about a costume designer.
Yeah.
What was the key takeaway there?
Right. The designer was struggling with a theater producer she saw as constantly critical, unkind. After exploring her internal reactions, it became clear her perception of him mirrored her own inner assumptions, her negative mental chats.
She was mentally criticizing him first.
She realized she was mentally berating him even before they interacted, so she made a conscious decision to shift her assumption,
Ow.
to vividly imagine him praising her designs, to mentally express gratitude for his kindness. And to her astonishment,
He changed.
his behavior completely transformed, directly reflecting her new assumptions. It powerfully shows how our internal whispers about others through our assumptions are often echoed back in their external actions.
That's such a vivid illustration. Wow. Chapter 8 shifts gears to renunciation. It's not about resisting negativity, but something more nuanced.
Exactly. Chapter 8 draws a crucial distinction between resisting something negative and truly renouncing it.
What's the difference?
Resisting something gives it your valuable attention, right? So you keep it alive and real in your experience. Renouncing it, however, involves deliberately withdrawing your attention and redirecting your focus towards what you do want to cultivate.
It's about consciously choosing where we invest our mental energy, like managing a portfolio.
Precisely. The chapter encourages us to actively give beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, praise for the spirit of heaviness.
How?
By consciously steering our attention towards our desired outcomes, maintaining joy despite unfavorable circumstances, and cultivating confidence instead of succumbing to despair.
This is a powerful metaphor used here of becoming a tree of righteousness.
Yeah.
What does that symbolize?
It symbolizes a transformative state where these positive mental attitudes become deeply ingrained, permanent within your consciousness.
Like a fundamental part of you.
You become a planting of the Lord when all your thoughts and feelings align with your highest concept of yourself, which is your understanding of I am. This happens when you recognize your disciplined imagination as your inherent power, your personal savior.
And the practice of pruning our imagination is also highlighted, like gardening.
Yes, just as a gardener prunes a vine to encourage good fruit, we need to consciously withdraw our attention from unlovely, destructive, limiting ideas.
And focus on the ideal.
And instead concentrate our mental energy on the ideal we wish to bring forth. This deliberate pruning of negative thoughts and feelings is essential for cultivating a happier, more fulfilling, more noble life.
Chapter 9 speaks to preparing your place. It suggests that what we truly desire is already ours somehow.
That's the core message. Chapter 9 asserts that all is yours. You don't need to go searching externally.
So what do I do?
Your task is to appropriate it, claim it in your consciousness, assume it as your own. Your deeply held concept of yourself acts like the ultimate magnet, determining what you ultimately realize.
It brings in that powerful promise, whosoever hath, to him it shall be given. How does that apply here?
It suggests that if you steadfastly hold lovely and positive things in your imagination, those qualities and experiences will be amplified, expanded in your reality.
You assume what you want.
By consistently imagining that you already are and already possess it. As the wisdom goes, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
So even if my current reality doesn't match my desires, I should mentally act as if it does.
Exactly. Be still and know that you are that which you desire to be, the chapter advises. You won't need to endlessly search for it outside. Despite the illusion of free will to act independently out there, we are constantly operating under the influence of the law of assumption, whether we know it or not.
Our experiences reflect our assumptions.
Always. They're a direct reflection.
And this law of assumption can even explain things like precognition, knowing things before they happen.
Yes. The chapter interprets scriptural references about preparing a place in the future as your imagination stepping into your desired state.
Into those many mansions.
Right. And fully immersing yourself in the feeling of it until it carries the weight and texture of reality. By doing that, you psychologically establish that reality.
And the physical world catches up.
And then your physical world catches up, bridging the gap through a sequence of events that lead to the fulfillment of your wish.
Chapter 10 ventures into creation itself, presenting a truly profound idea about time and existence.
It does indeed. Chapter 10 posits that creation is finished.
Is it?
All of time and space, everything that ever was and ever will be, coexist in an eternal, timeless now. What we see as the unfolding of creation is simply our increasing conscious awareness of what already exists in that infinite present moment.
That's wow. Mind expanding is right. So when we desire something, we're not bringing something totally new into being.
Precisely. Creativeness in this context is described as a deeper receptiveness.
Becoming aware of more.
A process of becoming consciously aware of increasingly larger portions of what is already eternally present. This understanding can even shed light on déjà vu.
That feeling of having been there before.
That eerie feeling, yeah. Because in a very real sense, the entirety of creation exists within you, and you're simply becoming aware of a particular facet of it.
So what determines which slice of this finished creation we experience? Our time track, as it's called.
Exactly. Your prevailing concept of yourself dictates your personal time track, the specific sequence of events and experiences you encounter.
My beliefs act like a filter.
A powerful filter directing the flow of your attention. If you consistently assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you'll notice your attention is naturally drawn to images, ideas, events that align with that assumption.
And persistence leads to experiencing it.
Persistent dwelling in that assumed state ultimately leads to experiencing it tangibly in your reality. Yes.
Chapter 11 delves into interference. It suggests even if creation is finished, we can still alter our course. How does that work?
Because you possess the inherent freedom to choose the concept you accept of yourself,
Okay.
you consequently possess the power of intervention, the remarkable ability to alter the trajectory of your future, rising from your current self-perception to a higher, more expansive one. That's the essence of all genuine progress.
That higher concept is always there.
Always available, just waiting for you to embody it fully.
And imagination and attention are the core tools for this intervention.
Absolutely. Your imagination is him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think.
Right.
Right. And your focused attention is the power that worketh in us. by consciously using your imagination to vividly envision your ideal self.
And focusing attention there.
And steadfastly directing your attention towards that imagined state and fully embracing the feeling that you are already that ideal, it will inevitably manifest as your tangible reality.
The chapter also touches on Christ in you. What's the significance of that in this framework?
Christ in you is identified as your own human imagination, the profound mystery veiled through the ages.
And the hope of glory.
Is your ever-increasing awareness of your innate ability to ascend to progressively higher levels of being through the conscious, disciplined use of your imagination. This deep understanding of imagination as the only redemptive power can potentially dismantle limiting beliefs, restrictive dogmas.
Chapter 12 guides us into subjective control. Taking command of our inner world seems like the crucial step.
Precisely. Chapter 12 emphasizes that the power, the effectiveness of your imagination is directly proportional to the intensity and focus of your attention.
All progress depends on it.
All meaningful progress and the ultimate fulfillment of your desires hinge upon your ability to consciously control and concentrate your mental focus.
What's the key difference between attention directed outward versus attention intentionally directed inward?
Okay, objective attention is passively drawn to external stuff, right?
Yeah.
The constant stream of information, events around you.
Mm-hmm.
Subjective attention, though, is a deliberate, conscious choice to focus your mental energy on the thoughts, feelings, images you intentionally select. While our objective attention is constantly pulled outward,
Our inner control is often weak.
our conscious control in the inner subjective realm is often underdeveloped.
Yeah, and cultivating that subjective control is the key to actively shaping our future.
Absolutely. When you develop the ability to consciously direct and control the movements of your attention within your inner subjective world, you gain the profound power to modify, to reshape your life according to your deepest desires.
How is that control achieved?
Through deliberate practice. Withdrawing attention from the external world each day and intentionally focusing it inward on chosen thoughts, feelings, mental images. As you cultivate this inner mastery, the external limitations that currently constrain you will start to lose their hold, eventually fade away.
So the moment we master our subjective attention is the moment we truly become masters of our own destiny.
Exactly. You'll no longer be passively reacting to external conditions. By understanding that Christ in you represents your own powerful imagination, you assert the supremacy of your inner world and begin to bring all aspects of your life into alignment with it.
Chapter 13 is titled Acceptance. It seems to be about recognizing a deeper reality beyond what our senses usually tell us.
That's right. Chapter 13 reveals that we fundamentally live in a world constructed by our imagination, not solely in the material world we perceive through our senses.
So outer events are delayed effects.
Often the delayed manifestations of past, often forgotten states of consciousness, like the delayed blooming of forgotten blossom times, as Goddard puts it.
And our emotional states play a pivotal role in this.
Yes. Whenever you become completely absorbed in a particular emotional state, you are essentially assuming the feeling of that state being fulfilled.
And if I persist in that feeling,
If you consistently dwell in that feeling, whatever you are intensely emotional about will eventually find its way into your external reality. These moments of profound, concentrated attention, this deep emotional absorption, are the very seeds of what you will ultimately harvest.
this brings up the intriguing idea of a shock we might experience when returning to the objective world after vivid imagination. Why does that happen?
Well, when an imagined state feels incredibly real, tangible, the sudden return to an objective reality that doesn't yet mirror it can create a kind of temporal shock,
Reversing time sense.
effectively reversing your habitual sense of time. Instead of your present being solely determined by your past, it starts to be significantly influenced by your immersion in that imagined future. This propels you across what Goddard calls a bridge of incident,
A series of events.
a series of events that naturally lead you towards the physical realization of your vividly imagined state.
So desire, imagination, and focused attention are the essential keys to the kingdom of heaven.
Precisely. For someone who can willingly, consciously assume any state they choose, undesirable objective facts start to lose their power, their grip.
And fervent wishes become reality.
Fervent wishes have the remarkable ability to transform from mere dreams into tangible reality. The metaphorical windows of heaven open not through forceful willpower or effort,
But through acceptance.
through a deep feeling of complete acceptance, cultivated through profound absorption in the feeling of your wish already fulfilled.
Chapter 14 introduces the effortless way. suggesting a principle of least resistance in manifesting desires.
Yes, it draws a fascinating parallel to the principle of least action in physics. Psychologically, the most direct path from your current state to your desired state requires the minimum mental energy,
Which is just assumption.
which translates to the simple act of conscious assumption. The moment you fully grasp the power of assumption, you realize it operates most effectively with focused attention and minimal conscious struggle.
So we don't need to constantly strive and strain in the traditional way.
Because creation, in its essence, is already complete. What you genuinely desire already exists within that vast field of possibilities.
It just seems excluded now.
It simply appears excluded from your current experience because your conscious awareness can only perceive the contents of your own prevailing consciousness. The true purpose of assumption is to call back the excluded view and restore your complete vision.
It's not the world that needs changing.
But rather your fundamental assumptions about it. Assumption in this light is like seeing with the eye of God, perceiving the unseen realities that already exist.
And the crucial element is controlling our assumptions in the present moment. Now.
Absolutely. Assumptions can only be actively controlled in the here and now. To skillfully operate the law of assumption, the future you desire must become a tangible reality within your mind in this present moment.
Oh.
By vividly imagining that you already are the person you will be when your assumption is fully realized, the chapter advises, be still and know that you are that which you desire to be.
Wishing isn't enough.
Perpetual wishing without actively assuming the feeling is just unproductive daydreaming. You have to translate that desired state into a present feeling of being.
Chapter 15 culminates in the crown of the mysteries. What's the ultimate application of consciousness being revealed here?
The central revelation is that the conscious assumption of your wish fulfilled acts as the very vehicle that propels you towards the realization of your dream.
Manifestation is subconscious.
Manifestation unfolds subconsciously, effortlessly. Your primary focus should be on the deliberate, consistent act of assuming the desired state.
There's a compelling analogy to the Immaculate Conception. How does that symbolic idea relate?
Psychologically, the Immaculate Conception is likened to the self-conceived birth of an idea, a deeply felt desire, within your own consciousness, untainted by external doubts or limits.
So everyone is Mary.
In this profound sense, every individual becomes the metaphorical Mary, giving birth to their desired realities through the potent power of conscious assumption. This is the crown because it represents the highest use of consciousness.
Where you mentally elevate yourself.
By actively assuming the feeling of your wish already fulfilled, and through unwavering persistence, this inner shift becomes your tangible, objective reality.
So our assumptions are far more than just fleeting thoughts. They actively shape and guide our lives.
Precisely. Your dominant assumption acts as a powerful guiding force, subtly directing all your conscious and subconscious movements towards its intended outcome. It basically orchestrates the events you encounter.
Learning the art of assumption is key.
Learning and mastering the art of conscious assumption is presented as the fundamental, most direct pathway to creating your own lasting happiness and fulfillment.
Chapter 16 addresses personal impotence. Sounds almost contradictory after all this talk of power.
It highlights a crucial element, the necessary act of self-surrender, the recognition of your inherent personal inability to force creation.
Because creation is finished.
Right. Since creation is understood as being already complete, you can't actually bring something entirely new into being. The magnetism analogy comes back.
Can't create magnetism.
You can only align yourself with its inherent laws to manifest its effects. Similarly, you can't create or alter the underlying law of assumption. Your power lies in consciously choosing to yield to it.
So our true power is in choosing our assumptions, not trying to manipulate external stuff.
Exactly. Since all your experiences arise from your underlying assumptions, conscious or not, the key to transformation lies in consciously harnessing this innate power.
Willingly identify and yield.
Willingly identifying with your deepest desires, surrendering to the feeling of your wish already fulfilled, and trusting implicitly that the immutable law of assumption will bring it to pass.
Chapter 17 bursts forth with, all things are possible, a powerful affirmation of limitless potential.
It is indeed. The chapter draws on the author's own profound personal experiences over 25 years,
Where assumption worked.
where the unwavering assumption of his desired outcome being fulfilled consistently and reliably led to tangible success. It encourages us to cultivate unwavering confidence, determined conviction.
Disregard appearances.
Disregard any external appearances that seem to contradict our desires. By steadfastly resting in the assumption of being precisely who we desire to be, we effectively merge with our infinite divine being.
Where all things are possible.
Where truly all things become possible, yes.
So mastering our lives is fundamentally about mastering our own assumptions.
Absolutely. It's about surrendering wholeheartedly to your ideal with such deep, unwavering awareness of its reality that you begin to live and experience that ideal life now.
Not bound by the past.
Rather than remaining bound by the limitations of your past experiences and beliefs, each consciously chosen assumption acts as a seed, creating its corresponding reality.
Control assumptions, control life.
By actively, consciously controlling your assumptions, steadfastly ignoring present appearances, and fully assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, your reality will inevitably respond, leading you towards an ever-expanding, increasingly joyful life.
Chapter 18 calls us to be ye doers. Clearly, just understanding isn't enough. We need active engagement.
That's the core message. The chapter emphasizes that the word, your deeply felt desire, your new self-concept needs to be actively embodied, lived.
Not just wished for.
Not just passively heard or wished for. Looking at yourself in the metaphorical glass is seeing yourself in imagination as the person you aspire to be.
But forgetting is failure.
But forgetting who you truly are in that imagined state is like failing to persist in that transformative assumption.
So doing the work means consistently maintaining the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Precisely. Just like the parable of the good servant multiplying his talents, we need to actively use our inherent power of assumption to nurture and grow our desires.
Neglecting it leads to atrophy.
Exactly. The fundamental truth is that being invariably precedes doing. You must first embody the desired state of being in your consciousness to experience its manifestations.
Replace limiting concepts?
Actively, consciously replacing your limiting self-concepts with your ideal vision. Those who actively engage their assumptions are far more magnetic, more creative than those who just passively wish and hope.
Chapter 19 distills everything down to essentials, the core steps for practically applying this powerful law.
Yes, it outlines 3 indispensable elements. First, a truly intense, burning desire to experience a different reality. That's the driving force. Second, cultivating physical immobility. A state like deep relaxation or just before sleep, but with attention consciously controlled. This helps accumulate mental force, sharpen focus.
And
Third, the crucial act of vividly experiencing your wish fulfilled within your imagination, completely surrendering to the feeling of having already attained it until your entire being is permeated by it.
disciplined imagination, not daydreaming.
Right. Disciplined, directed imagination, requiring minimal conscious effort to maintain in that state of inner stillness. Consistently applying these 3 core steps ultimately leads to profound at-one-ment with your desired objective.
And this isn't just for huge goals, it works for anything.
Absolutely. The chapter clarifies this fundamental law operates impersonally, like electricity. It can be effectively applied to any objective.
But be careful with desires.
But it's wise to remember that ignoble or ill-intentioned desires ultimately tend to yield unhappy, undesirable consequences.
Chapter 20 delves into the true meaning of righteousness in this context. Definitely not the traditional definition.
Exactly. Here, righteousness is defined as the conscious awareness of already being the person you aspire to be.
The psychological state.
A deeply psychological state, rather than adherence to external moral codes or doctrines. Sin, in contrast, is missing mark.
Failing to realize potential.
Failing to realize your full potential, not embodying the person you truly desire to be. You are saved from this state of sin solely by assuming and consistently embodying the consciousness of your desired state.
So simply striving for external things, possessions, status, that's not the path to this righteousness.
That's a crucial point. Righteousness isn't about the external acquisition. It's about cultivating the inner feeling of already being the person who would naturally possess those things.
The feeling of having.
Of already experiencing the fulfillment of your desires. The chapter wisely advises, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness.
Where the kingdom is within.
The kingdom represents the entirety of creation within your own consciousness, and righteousness is the profound awareness of already possessing all that you could ever desire.
Chapter 21 tackles the often debated topic of free will. What's the unique perspective here regarding the law of assumption?
The chapter proposes that after you have consciously fully assumed the feeling of your wish fulfilled, there is nothing further you need to, or even can, do externally to force its manifestation.
Thinking you can help is a delusion.
The belief that you can actively aid the realization beyond that initial assumption is presented as a misconception, stemming from a lack of understanding of the law's inherent power. Everything necessary unfolds automatically, naturally, aligned with your underlying assumptions.
So our true free will isn't about manipulating the external world, but consciously choosing our assumptions.
Precisely. True free will lies in the absolute freedom to select any idea or concept you desire and assume it to be a present fact within your consciousness.
Setting its conversion into reality in motion.
Exactly. Beyond that fundamental choice of assumption, everything else happens in perfect accordance with the concept you've embraced. The chapter reinterprets things like, not my will, but thine be done,
As consciousness versus wishing.
as the distinction between your conscious state of being, the Father's will, your assumed reality, and mere surface-level wishing, my will. Being always precedes doing. You must first embody the changed concept for external events to align.
And by consciously shifting our consciousness, we truly have the power to alter the course of events.
Absolutely. You possess the inherent power to intervene, reshape your future by deliberately changing your fundamental concept of yourself.
Noble assumptions create harmony.
Noble, loving assumptions create harmony, positive outcomes. Unlovely, fearful assumptions inevitably lead to negativity. The chapter strongly encourages focusing on pure, just, lovely, good thoughts.
Claim your inheritance, see good in others.
Actively claiming your divine inheritance, consistently seeing the good in others. Remember, you win not through external force or manipulation,
But through assumptions' influence.
through the subtle yet powerful influence of assumption on the very fabric of consciousness. True outer change always begins with a fundamental shift within, transforming your core concept of self and persistently dwelling in the feeling of your wish fulfilled.
Chapter 22 emphasizes the absolutely crucial element of persistence. Clear we can't just dabble. Consistent application is key.
That's absolutely right. The chapter uses several powerful biblical parables, the persistent friend at midnight, Jacob wrestling the angel,
To show the need for persistence.
to vividly illustrate the absolute necessity of unwavering persistence in your chosen assumption of the desired state. Ask, seek, knock are reinterpreted as actively assuming the consciousness of already having what you desire,
And sticking with it.
and steadfastly maintaining that assumption, regardless of any contrary appearances.
Even when our senses contradict our assumptions.
Especially then, the core message. If you are shameless in your importunity, persistently, unyieldingly assuming you already possess what your senses currently deny,
It will be given.
it shall ultimately be given to you. Genuine desire originates from an underlying awareness of your ultimate attainment, and it's your persistent commitment to maintaining the consciousness of that fulfillment that ultimately brings it into reality.
Pray without ceasing meat.
Not endless verbal repetition, but a continuous state of gratitude for already having your desire.
So a lack of external action often stems directly from a lack of persistence in our inner assumption.
Precisely. An effective, transformative assumption isn't a one-time mental exercise. It's a sustained attitude, a deeply ingrained feeling of your wish being fully, completely fulfilled.
Chapter 23 brings these principles to life through compelling case histories, real-world examples of this power in action.
Yes, these diverse, inspiring stories vividly illustrate how individuals facing a wide range of challenges, seeking military discharge, achieving business success, even overcoming serious illness,
They used imagination and assumption.
consciously, deliberately employed their imagination and the persistent assumption of their desired outcome to bring about truly remarkable, often unexpected transformations.
It's incredible to see these principles applied in such diverse situations, yielding such specific results.
What becomes strikingly clear through these case histories is the sheer power of the individual's vividly imagined states and their unwavering persistence in holding those assumptions,
Often against the odds.
often in the face of considerable contrary external evidence. They truly embodied the feeling of their wish being fulfilled until it naturally manifested as their new reality.
Chapter 24 thoughtfully addresses failure, something many exploring these ideas might encounter. Why do assumptions sometimes not seem to materialize?
The primary reason for apparent failure, according to the chapter, lies in a fundamental lack of naturalness in the feeling of already being or possessing what you desire.
It has to feel natural.
If the assumed state doesn't feel genuinely natural, authentic to you, despite your intellectual understanding and diligent application, it's unlikely to solidify into reality.
How do we cultivate that essential feeling of naturalness?
The key lies in the consistent, disciplined use of your imagination. By persistently, vividly filling your consciousness with the imagination of being exactly who you desire to be or possessing what you long for.
You gradually cultivate naturalness.
You gradually begin to cultivate that crucial feeling of naturalness. Genuine progress always originates from your deep desire to transcend current limitations. You must truly believe with the full force of your imagination that all things are indeed possible for you.
So we shouldn't get discouraged if initial attempts don't immediately change things outside.
Absolutely not. Success or perceived failure ultimately hinges on your ability to consistently sustain the required state of consciousness. The fundamental truth of the law that persistent assumptions over time harden into facts remains constant, regardless of setbacks.
If assumptions aren't manifesting,
The wisest course is to honestly examine your own consciousness for underlying doubts or conflicting beliefs, and to keep pressing forward, steadfastly feeling you are already the person you aspire to be.
speed depends on naturalness.
The speed of manifestation is often directly proportional to the degree of naturalness you can embody in your assumed state. Yes.
Chapter 25 delves into the foundational concept of faith, which seems like the bedrock this whole philosophy rests on.
Yes. Faith is beautifully described as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
The foundation of assumption.
The very foundation rests upon a deep-seated awareness that what you earnestly hope for already possesses real substance and consciousness, and is therefore inherently attainable. The understanding that creation is finished fuels this powerful hope,
Which ignites expectation.
which in turn ignites the unwavering expectation necessary for consciously, effectively using the law of assumption.
So faith isn't blind belief, but an inner knowing of the reality of what we're assuming.
Precisely. True faith, in this context, is the profound awareness of the inherent reality of that which you are consciously assuming to be true.
Lack of faith is disbelief.
A lack of faith, therefore, signifies a deep-seated disbelief in the potential of your own desires to be realized, which inevitably leads to frustration, lack of results. The chapter underscores that faith's efficacy isn't external, it's solely an active function of your own consciousness.
It's fascinating how this chapter reinterprets familiar biblical passages through this lens.
Yes, concepts like the gospel, good news of your desire attained, needing to be mixed with faith, your unwavering belief in its reality to yield results.
And forsaking Egypt.
Forsaking Egypt, belief in external powers, by seeing him who is invisible, persistently dwelling in your assumed state, all eliminated through this perspective. True faith here isn't about questioning or doubting.
It's about knowing and embracing.
Knowing and fully embracing the reality of your assumed wish fulfilled.
Chapter 26 touches upon destiny, suggesting our path isn't rigidly fixed, but something we're constantly creating.
That's the core message. Your destiny is presented not as a single predetermined path etched in stone,
But an infinite tapestry.
an infinite tapestry of individual destinies, each one a potential starting point for a new, different one. Because consciousness is the sole creative force, you are actively shaping your destiny every moment, whether you realize it or not.
So understanding this power actually deepens our appreciation for life's potential.
Absolutely. Recognizing you are the primary architect of your own life's contents, good and bad, leads to a profound appreciation for existence's intricacies. Ultimately, your inherent destiny is to continuously ascend to higher, more expansive states of consciousness.
Manifesting more wonders.
Manifesting an increasing array of wonders and possibilities. The key is to consciously engage in creating your successive destinies through focused desire and heightened awareness. Studying and applying these principles is the master key to consciously unlocking your highest destiny.
The final chapter, 27, speaks of reverence, the ultimate emotional response from this understanding.
Yes, reverence is the deep, abiding awe and devotion that naturally arises from the profound realization that you are, in essence, God.
You are the I am.
You are the I am that I am. You are consciousness itself, the ultimate creator. This isn't just intellectual. It's a deeply felt, visceral awareness of your own inherent divine nature. That's the immutable foundation for the law of assumption.
And this understanding should fill us with love and adoration for this inner power.
Absolutely. Knowing your creator isn't some distant entity, but your very own self, and that you were brought into being out of pure love, that should permeate your entire being with perpetual reverence.
Awe in the everyday.
Even a simple, heartfelt contemplation of the world around you can inspire deep awe. It's in this state of intense reverence you are closest to your truest self, and life becomes infinitely richer, more meaningful. Often the most profound feelings, like this reverence, transcend language.
Silence is praise.
A state of quiet contemplation becomes the most fitting form of praise.
Yes. Thank you so much for guiding us through this incredible deep dive into Neville Goddard's The Power of Awareness. It's truly perspective shifting, exploring the immense power within each of us.
It's been a truly fascinating journey together, and the core empowering message remains clear. You are the very fabric of consciousness, and your assumptions are the master architects of your personal reality.
We really encourage all of you listening to take some time, sit with these powerful ideas, truly consider how you might consciously begin to apply the law of assumption in the unique landscape of your own life. What new and wonderful realities might you begin to call forth?
We would absolutely love to hear your thoughts, any experiences you might have as you explore these principles, so please don't hesitate to share them in the comments section below.
And of course, a massive thank you to each and every one of you for being such an incredible part of our community and for joining us on this deep dive. Your continued curiosity and engagement truly mean the world to us. Remember, the power of your own I am is absolutely limitless.
Absolutely.
Until our next exploration together.